I am Miss Jenica Alexis Sabado, or you may call me Teacher Ida, a mathematics teacher from Western Bicutan National High School. This is under the first quarter. And before we begin our discussion, I want you to prepare your paper, your ballpen, and your calculator. I hope you're ready, and let's begin with a review. I have here 6 different equations, and I want you to identify which are polynomial functions and which are just simply polynomial equations. I will give you 10 seconds to answer this problem. You may pause our video and continue once you are done. Okay, so these are the answers. And observe different patterns for this. As you can see on our polynomial functions, you can see there y, p of x, and f of x, in which you can have these values once you substituted a value for your x. Well, for your polynomial equations, you just have there your x's equated to 0, in which you simply have to get the values of x. I think you are ready for our discussion for today. So let's have problem number 1. For problem number 1, it tells you that the height of a triangle is 3 inches less than the length of the base. The area of the triangle is 44 square inches. And we have here...
Let us answer the following questions. How are you going to represent the height and the base of the triangle? First, let's write them down. So you have there your base and your height. In the problem, it tells you something about the height, but there is nothing about the base. In this case, we will represent your base as your x. And for the height, again, it tells you that it is 3 inches less than the length of the base. You see the word less than? Less than tells you to use subtraction. However, if you see the word is less than, then that's the time that you will use the symbol less than. So in this case, you have there x minus 3. And do not forget that our last statement tells you about the area, which is equal to 44 square inches. So now we already have our representation. Number 2. What expression would represent the area of the triangle? Again, going back to the area, we know that your area is equal to base times height all over 2. In this case, we will just substitute your base, which is x, and your height, x minus 3, which gives us a is equal to x times x minus 3 over 2. So that's your answer for question number 2. For number 3, write the required equation in solving for its dimensions. For the dimensions, you must take note that there should only be one variable for you to solve a polynomial. In this case, let's consider the value of your area. Remember that your area is 44. So substitute it here, you will get 44 equals x times x minus 3 over 2. And for number 4, what mathematical concepts do you apply in solving for its dimensions? In this case, since we now have x as the only variable that we have, and you can see here x and x, when we multiply, you're gonna have a quadratic. So we will be solving a quadratic equation. So to do that, let us solve the problem. To start, take note that you have here 44, a whole number. So to solve, let's put here an invisible 1 for the denominator. And now let's cross multiply. So you have there 88 is equal to x times x minus 3. However, you can actually multiply x and x minus 3. So we just have to distribute x to x and negative 3, giving you 88 is equal to x squared minus 3x. To continue solving, we just have to put everything on one side. Therefore, you have there 0 is equal to x squared minus 3x minus 88. And now we have our quadratic. To solve your quadratic, I will use the magic x. So for the magic x, you just put here your x. And do not forget that the number written at the top is the sum of your roots, which is this coefficient in the middle term, negative 3. While the number written below is the product of the roots, which is the constant, negative 88. The values here will give you the factors for the quadratic equation. So in this case, let's write down first all the factors of 88. Now let's check by adding or subtracting these pairs that will get a negative 3. So let's start. If we add, it's 89. If we subtract, 87. Wow. 2 plus 44, 46. When you subtract, it's 42. Wrong again. 4 plus 22 is 26. But if we subtract, it's 18. So again, it's wrong. What about this? If we add, we have 19. But if we subtract, we have 3. But since this is negative 3, I will make that 11 negative and your 8 positive. So after writing it down, we can now have the factors as x minus 11. So we simply copy that and put it there. And then x plus 8, which is equal to 0. Now let's get the value of your x. So in this case, you have there x minus 11 equals 0. And you have x equals 11. While this one gives you x plus 8 equals 0, and when we move it to the other side, it becomes negative 8. Take note that a negative number cannot be an answer, and there is no negative value for the length. So in this case, our x is equal to 11. Going back to our given, substitute, you now have there 11, and for the height, 11 minus 3, which gives you 8. And that is the answer for the question number 5. What are the dimensions of the triangle? Do not forget to put the labels that these are in inches. So for our final answer, we can now write here, base is equal to 11 inches, while your height is equal to 8 inches.
Now let's have problem number 2. An online seller offers decorated cakes for birthday parties and other special occasions. The seller wants the volume of a small cake to be 351 cubic inches. The cake is in the shape of a rectangular solid. She wants the length of the cake to be 4 inches longer than the width of the cake and the height of the cake to be 1/3 of the width. What should be the dimensions of the cake pan?
In this problem, do not forget that we have to get the volume of the cake. And the volume for the rectangular solid is volume equals length times width times height. So in this case, we have to represent this in one variable in order for us to solve the problem. The first given here is the volume. Remember that it tells you the V is equal to 351. And now, let's represent the length, the width, and the height. So, it tells you something about the length and something about the height. But there is nothing about the width. Therefore, your width will be represented as x. Now, going back to the problem, it tells us that the length of the cake is 4 inches longer than the width. So, we will just add 4 to the width. And lastly, the height of the cake is 1/3 of the width. So, you have here the x for the width, and 1/3 of it is x over 3. Since you already have your given, we can now substitute the length, the width, the height, and the volume to our original equation. So our working equation here is 351 is equal to x plus 4 times x over 2. And now, you can see here another polynomial equation. Now we have our working equation, but there is a fraction. To remove that one, we have to multiply the whole equation by 3. And to do that, just multiply. So 3 times 351 is 1053. And you have here x plus 4. And here you can now cancel this. So x times x is x squared. Again, let's continue to simplify this by multiplying x squared to x plus 4. So you have there 1053 is equal to x cubed plus 4x squared. So let's rewrite this equation properly. So you have here x cubed plus 4x squared minus 1053 equals 0. And it's our time to find the value of our values for the x. In this case, since it's cubic, we can go back to finding the roots. And to find the roots, we can use our rational root theorem. Don't forget your RRT, in which this is just simply P over Q. Your P is 1053, this one, over Q, or you put it negative, and over Q, which is just 1. So you have to get the factors of 1053. The number is quite large. And in solving, I have found out that the factors are, again, we are looking for the dimensions or the length. So in this case, the answer must be positive. So we will just be entertaining positive answers here. And after finding some factors, we can now proceed to your synthetic division. So for the synthetic division, note that you just have to write down the coefficients. And since there is one missing term here, we can actually write there x or 0x. So we can now write 1, 4, 0, and negative 1053. Now let's try 9. Again, first step is to bring down. So you have there 1. 1 times 9 is 9. Add these numbers, you get 13. 13 times 9 is 117. And adding, you have there 117. 117 times 9, remember these are the factors of your 1053. Therefore, this is 1053. And R equals 0. Therefore, you have now 9 as a correct answer. In this case, we can now put back our variable. So remember, this is x cubed. We just have to subtract it by 1. So you have x squared. And then in here, you can just have x. And don't forget their signs. So that's plus. And you now have here a quadratic. So we can actually use here a magic x again. But take note, this is 117. So for 117, to get the factors, remember it's just 13 times 9. And if you have there 13 times 9, if we add here, the answer is 22. If we subtract, the answer is 4. So it's not 13. But what if we try 39 and 3? Again, the number is getting higher. It's far from 13. Therefore, we cannot solve this further. Instead, we can now have 9 as our x, value for our x. So going back to the given, you now have there your x equals 9. And then for the length, that's 9 plus 4, which is 13. And for the height, you now have here 9 divided by 3, which is 3. So since you already have your length, width, and height, do not forget to answer the question, what should the dimensions of the cake pan be? The answer for this is the dimensions must be greater than the length of 13, the width of 9, and the height of 3. Why greater than? So that the cake could occupy the space of your pan.
And our last problem for today. A boy thought of 4 non-positive integers whose product is 144. The first integer is 1 less than the third integer. The second integer is twice the first. And the fourth integer is 2 more than thrice the third. What are the integers?
Now let's represent those 4 non-positive integers. Take note that there is nothing said about our third integer. Therefore, third integer will be our x. It tells us that our first integer is 1 less than the third. So we put there x minus 1. While our second integer is based on the first, which is twice. So we just have to multiply this by 2. So you have there 2 times x minus 1, which is equal to 2x minus 2. And for the last one, our fourth integer is actually thrice the third integer more than 2. So thrice is 3 times and more than 2 is plus 2. And don't forget that their product is 144. So we have to get their product. Next, we have to multiply all these numbers. So I'll start multiplying this 2 and then this 2. That equals 144. Now let's multiply the trinomial by the binomial. However, we can see here that everything is divisible by 2. So divide everything by 2. Rewriting now our working equation. Again, let's use your rational root theorem. So once listed, we can now start with our synthetic division. So we can choose any of those numbers to start with. And let's choose here negative 1. So let's try negative 1. Again, don't forget the first step is to bring down, which is 3. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. Then add, you have negative 7. Negative 7 times negative 1 is positive 7. And that gives you 6. 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. This is negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 1 is positive 5. And it's far from negative 72. Therefore, 1 is not an answer. So let's remove this. Let's change our given. Let's try another number. Let's try negative 2. Again, step 1 is to bring down. This is 3 times negative 2, negative 6. So add negative 10, multiply 20, add 19. Multiply negative 38, and this is negative 36 times that one and 72. Wow! R is equal to 0. Now we found out our first value for x, which is negative 2. Actually, in solving these kinds of problem, once you found out one answer, you can try this to check whether this is correct or not. So going back, we now have here negative 2. So your third integer is negative 2. So substitute it here. So you have there negative 3. Now we also have here negative 6. And last one we have here negative 6 plus 2 is negative 4. So when we multiply all these numbers, this is 3 times 6, 18, times 2, 36, times 4, which is 144. And negative times negative times negative times negative is positive 144. Therefore, the integers are negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, and negative 6.
Now we have discussed different problems involving your polynomials. To help you in problem solving, I have here the 4-step process by polynomial. So for the first, understand the problem. Make sure to read the problem carefully, that you were able to understand it well. Our second step is to devise a plan. Translate words to mathematical equations. You can sketch a diagram to help you visualize what the problem is all about. And If the problems involve polynomial equations, you can use the rational root theorem and synthetic division in solving. Step 3. Once you devise your plan, it is now time for you to carry the plan. Do the solving. And last step is to look back or check and interpret the answers. You can recheck your work to be able to assess if you were able to answer the question to the problem. And do not forget to put a label. Now, it's your turn. Please do answer these questions. We are done with our discussion. Thank you for staying all throughout the video. Again, this is Teacher Aika saying, ay kaya ko. Ay kaya mo. Ay kaya natin mo. Good day, Tagigenyos!